Alright, everyone. I am a little late. I mean, I said on my post that I was going to start between 2 and 3 because I had to take a friend to work. So I just got back and I'm getting ready to get started. And it is 2:17, so not too terrible, but anyway, let's see. I need to... That's on. Hold on a minute. Okay, it's on live. I was checking my stream to make sure it was actually up because it said upcoming. I was like, that's odd. I didn't schedule it. Okay. That's odd. Okay, let's go ahead and try to post a chat message. Yay, it worked. Woohoo. Alright. Now, I will leave that how it is. It's been quite a busy day. My kid has classes. I've said that plenty of times before. I was working on Bridgerton before we left, and then I had to take my friend to work. Plus, I have been posting messages to my oldest kid who's in New York for a while now, and they have not been responding to anything. They finally started responding, like all at once. So it was a bunch of messages. They were sending messages on the phone, by text, and on the computer on Discord. So I was in my car and getting all these messages and trying to go through them. And yeah, it was something. But we had, I think, a pretty good communication, and hopefully I can help them out with some stuff that's going on. That will be nice. And hopefully I can get my shit straight at the same time, because I'm going to be giving them something that I will need to replace, which means that I'm going to have to find a replacement for it. And it's not a small thing. It's a very big, expensive thing, so it's going to take me a bit. And this is all while we're trying to get this house sold. So, yeah, I still have to call the painters, which I plan on doing soon. I still have to get my taxes done. I still have to choose flooring to put in new flooring in the house before I put it up for sale. But anyway. Oh, you know what? I didn't get coffee yet. I got a minute and a half. I'm going to go grab coffee really quick. Hopefully quicker than that. I'm back. Coffee is not quite as hot as I would like it, but it's close enough. I can deal with it. And it's not quite as sweet as I would like it, but it's close enough also. So I think usually there's a little bit more cream in it, but I just used the last of the cream, so I'll have to go shopping later for that. All right. And yes, I'm winded just from going back and forth between my room and the living or the kitchen, because everything makes me winded. I am an out of shape person. All right, let's go. Okay, everybody, this is Venus Brown. I am back with another live reading of The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. We are starting on chapter 37, which on my copy, I believe, starts at page 217. And I'm just looking at the pages on the copy, and it has 281 pages, so we don't have too terribly much longer to go. And like I said last time, after I am done with this book, I will start on, why can't I remember what it's called right now? Oh my gosh, it's coming up. They're gonna have a new show, new TV series. It's Handmaid's Tale's spinoff. Oh gosh, why can't I remember what it is? Anyway, I'll be doing the book version of that. And when the TV series starts, I will be doing reactions to that. So just, anyway, bear with me. I'm a little, scattered right now. All right, so we need to go ahead and do our intermission. I say intermission, but it's really just my little put together introductions to the chapters. There. I just use the intermission screen to show those introductions to the chapters. But anyway, that is the presentation from the TV show where she's wearing the little, leotards or something like that. She's wearing a white shirt in that, and she's got the rabbit ears, which I think the ears are well represented, but the costume in the book I think was a little different. I'm not sure, but I think she was supposed to be in black leotards or something like that. Not 100% sure. And it said that everything, none of it quite fit right. The suit itself was a little bit too snug, and the ears themselves were a little too loose or something like that. So anyway, let's go ahead and get this started. And I don't remember what I was talking about before before my startup screen got done with its clock timer. But yeah, just lots of stuff going on, and we have lots of stuff to do and get done and deal with, and so it can be a little overwhelming. And my kid that I was talking to before, that I was talking about, they are getting a little overwhelmed too over in New York. But anyway, that's another story for another time in another place. Chapter 37. We go along the corridor and through another flat gray door and along another corridor, softly lit and carpeted this time in a mushroom color, browny pink. Doors open off it with numbers on them, 101, 102, the way you count during a thunderstorm to see how close you are to being struck. It's a hotel then. From behind one of the doors comes laughter, a man's and also a woman's. It's a long time since I've heard that. We emerge into a central courtyard. It's wide and also high. It goes up several stories to a skylight at the top. There's a fountain in the middle of it, and a round fountain spraying water in the shape of a dandelion gone to seed. Potted plants and trees sprout here and there. Vines hang down from the balconies. Oval-sided glass elevators slide up and down the walls like giant mollusks. I know where I am. I've been here before, with Luke, in the afternoons a long time ago. It was a hotel then. Now it's full of women. I stand still and stare at them. I can stare here. Look around me. There are no white wings to keep me from it. My head, shorn of them, feels curiously light, as if a weight has been removed from it, or substance. The women are sitting, lounging, strolling, leaning against one another. There are men mingled with them, a lot of men, but in their dark uniforms or suits, so similar to one another, they form only a kind of background. The women, on the other hand, are tropical. They are dressed in all kinds of bright, festive gear. Some of them have on outfits like mine, feathers and glister, cut high up, the thighs low over the breasts. Some are in olden days lingerie, shorty nightgowns, baby doll pajamas, and the occasional see-through negligee. Some are in bathing suits, one-piece or bikini. One I see is wearing a crocheted affair with big scallop shells covering the tits. Some are in jogging shorts and sun halters. Some in exercise costumes, like the ones they used to show on television, body tight with knitted pastel leg warmers. There are even a few in cheerleaders' outfits, like pleated skirts, outsized letters across the chest. I guess they've had to fall back on melange, whatever they could scrounge or salvage. All wear makeup, and I realize how unaccustomed I've become to seeing it on women, because their eyes look too big to me, too dark and shimmering. Their mouths too red, too wet, blood-dipped and glistening, or on the other hand, too clownish. At first glance, there's a cheerfulness to the scene. It's like a masquerade party. They are like oversized children dressed up in togs they've rummaged from trunks. Is there a joy in this? There could be. But have they chosen it? You can't tell by looking. There are a great many buttocks in this room. I am no longer used to them. It's like walking into the past, says the commander. His voice sounds pleased, delighted even. Don't you think? I try to remember if the past was exactly like this. I'm not sure now. I know it contained these things, but somehow the mix is different. A movie about the past is not the same as the past. Yes, I say. What I feel is not one simple thing. Certainly I am not dismayed by these women, not shocked by them. I recognize them as truants. The official creed denies them, denies their very existence. Yet here they are. This is at least something. Don't gawk, says the commander. You'll give yourself away. Just act natural. Which I think is funny because, you have made them live for the last 3 years in a completely unnatural way. And now you're telling her, don't gawk, act natural. She might be a little out of practice of acting natural because she's had to act so unnatural for the last 3 years. Anyway, whatever. Again, he leads me forward. Another man has spotted him, has greeted him, and set himself in motion towards us. The commander's grip tightens on my upper arm. Steady, he whispers. Don't lose your nerve. All you have to do, I tell myself, is keep your mouth shut and look stupid. It shouldn't be that hard. The commander does the talking for me, to this man and to the others who follow him. He doesn't say much about me. He doesn't need to. He says I'm new, and they look at me and dismiss me and confer together about other things. My disguise performs its function. He retains hold of my arm, and as he talks, his spine straightens imperceptibly. His chest expands. His voice assumes more and more the sprightliness and jocularity of youth. It occurs to me he is showing off. He is showing me off to them, and they understand that. They are decorous, though. They keep their hands to themselves, but they review my breasts, my legs, as if there's no reason why they shouldn't. But also, he is showing off to me. He is demonstrating to me his mastery of the world. He's breaking the rules under their noses, thumbing his nose at them, getting away with it. Perhaps he's reached that state of intoxication which power is said to inspire, the state in which you believe you're indispensable and can therefore do anything. Absolutely anything you feel like, anything at all. Twice, when he thinks no one is looking, he winks at me. It's a juvenile display, the whole act, and pathetic, but it's something I understand. When he's done enough of this, he leads me away again to a puffy, flowered sofa of the kind they once had in hotel lobbies. In this lobby, in fact. It's a floral design, I remember. Dark blue background, pink Art Nouveau flowers. I thought your feet might be getting tired, he says, in those shoes. He's right about that, and I'm grateful. He sits me down and sits himself down beside me. He puts an arm around my shoulders. The fabric of his sleeve is raspy against my skin. So unaccustomed lately to being touched. Well, he says, what do you think of our little club? I look around me again. The men are not homogeneous as I first thought. Over by the fountain, there's a group of Japanese in lightish gray suits. And in the far corner, there's a splash of white. Arabs in those long bathrobes they wear, the headgear, the striped sweatbands. It's a club, I say? Well, that's what we call it among ourselves, the club. I thought this sort of thing was strictly forbidden, I say. Well, officially, he says. But everyone's human, after all. I wait for him to elaborate on this, but he doesn't. So I say, what does that mean? It means you can't cheat nature, he says. Nature demands variety for men. It stands to reason. It's part of the procreational strategy. It's nature's plan. I don't say anything, so he goes on. Women know that instinctively. Why did they buy so many different clothes in the old days? To trick the men into thinking they were several different women, a new one each day. This guy is fucking absurd. Like, you men are dressed in the same fucking thing, and you're insisting that you need this variety, yet you don't dress in variety. And because women dress in variety, because they change their fucking style of clothing every now and then, you're like, oh yeah, they're trying to trick the men into thinking they're a new woman each day. Like, there are some people that are sort of like that. They just like changing shit up. But for the most part, people kind of have their own style. They dress in their own styles. And sure, they're going to change their clothing a little bit. But for the most part, they're going to stay in that same predictable style. Male or female, frankly. And if they decide one day that, oh, they've had enough of that style, like, and people are used to it because they have dressed in the same style for a while, and then all of a sudden they change into something completely different, it might look like almost like you're a totally new person. But for most people, it's not like that. Them changing their outfit and changing their clothes doesn't make them look like a new person. And for those people that do regularly change their clothes like that, you know that that's how they are. I don't know. Like, just some of the stuff he says is so freaking irritating to me. And it's irritating to her, too, which we're going to hear that, I think, pretty soon. He says this as if he believes it, but he says many things that way. Maybe he believes it, maybe he doesn't, or maybe he does both at the same time. Impossible to tell what he believes. So now that we don't have different clothes, I say, you merely have different women? This is irony, but he doesn't acknowledge it. It solves a lot of problems, he says, without a twitch. It solves a lot of problems, he says, without a twitch. I don't reply to this. I am getting fed up with him. I feel like freezing on him, passing the rest of the evening in sulky wordlessness. But I can't afford that, and I know it. Whatever this is, it's still an evening out. What I'd really like to do is talk with the women, but I see scant chance of that happening. Who are these people? I ask him. It's only for the officers, he says, from all branches and senior officials and trade delegations, of course. It stimulates trade. It's a good place to meet people. You can hardly do business without it. We try to provide at least as good as they get from elsewhere. You can overhear things too, information. A man will sometimes tell a woman things he wouldn't tell another man. No, I say, I mean the women. Oh, he says. Well, some of them are real pros, working girls. He laughs. From the time before. They couldn't be assimilated. Anyway, most of them prefer it here. So he had just... hold on, I'm getting messages. I'm not going to respond to them right now, but I wanted to clear them away because they're very distracting to me. What was I going to say? I don't remember. It's something like he had said something before, and then this comment he makes about it's only... Oh, yeah. He says that they can't cheat nature or whatever. Like, this is human nature. They have to have this variety, that, like, men need this variety. But then he says it's only for the officers. So only the higher up people and the trade delegates are even allowed to go to these things. So you can't cheat nature for the higher ups, but all these lowly men, they don't fucking have the same opportunities. And what about nature for women? I get he thinks nature for women is fucking procreation, sitting at home, having babies and taking care of the fucking household. But you're acting like only men have certain needs and women don't. And that's bullshit, whether you're looking at a traditional idea of men and women or not. Again, some of the things he says are very irritating to me. Okay, so he had just made the comment about some of the women are real pros, working girls. They just couldn't be assimilated, and most of them prefer it here. And so when he said working girls, I was thinking he's talking about, and real pros, that he's talking about people that were already in prostitution or, working girls in that respect. But he could also mean like they're performing their actual role that they were before, whatever. They were working girls and now they're just dressed up in the same roles that they were already playing. But I'm not sure. He may be talking about prostitutes, things like that. But he may be talking about the other way. He may be talking about both. It may just be fucking euphemisms. Anyway, then she says, and the others? The others, he says. Well, we have quite a collection. That one over there, the one in green, she's a sociologist. Or was. And see, my field is sociology. So, little relation there, and I can understand why she might not fit in so well. That one was a lawyer. That one was in business, an executive position, some sort of fast food chain, or maybe it was hotels. I'm told you can have quite a good conversation with her if all you feel like is talking. They prefer it here too. Prefer it to what, I say. To the alternatives, he says. You might even prefer it yourself to what you've got. He says this coyly. He's fishing. He wants to be complimented. And I know that the serious part of the conversation has come to an end. I don't know, I say, as if considering it. It might be hard work. You'd have to watch your weight, that's for sure, he says. They're strict about that. Gain 10 pounds and they put you in solitary. Is he joking? Most likely, but I don't want to know. Now, he says, to get you into the spirit of the place, how about a little drink? I'm not supposed to, I say, as you know. Once won't hurt, he says. Anyway, it wouldn't look right if you didn't. No nicotine and alcohol taboos here. You see, they do have some advantages here. All right, I say. Secretly, I like the idea. I haven't had a drink in years. What'll it be then, he says. They've got everything here, imported. A gin and tonic, I say, but weak, please. I wouldn't want to disgrace you. You won't do that, he says, grinning. He stands up, then surprisingly takes my hand and kisses it on the palm. Then he moves off, heading for the bar. He could have called over a waitress. There are some of these, in identical black mini-skirts with pom-poms on their breasts. But they seem busy and hard to flag down. Then I see her. Moira. She's standing with two other women over near the fountain. I have to look hard again to make sure it's her. I do this in pulses, quick flickers of the eyes so no one will notice. She's dressed absurdly in a black outfit of once shiny satin that looks the worse for wear. It's strapless, wired from the inside, pushing up the breasts, but it doesn't quite fit Moira. It's too large, so that one breast is plumped out and the other isn't. She's tugging absent-mindedly at the top, pulling it up. There's a wad of cotton attached to the back. I can see it as she half turns. It looks like a sanitary pad that's been popped like a piece of popcorn. I realize that it's supposed to be a tail. Attached to her head are two ears of a rabbit or deer. It's not easy to tell. One of the ears has lost its starch or wiring and is flopping halfway down. She has a black bow tie around her neck and is wearing black net stockings and black high heels. She always hated high heels, and I agree with these remarks. I believe that big high heels like that are torture devices. And I am not at all comfortable wearing them. The highest I will wear is like a 1/2-inch heel. Those things do not belong on my feet. I see no reason to cause my feet more pain and achiness than they already get just with walking and standing for long periods of time. The whole costume, antique and bizarre, reminds me of something from the past. But I can't think what. A stage play? A musical comedy? Girls dressed for Easter in rabbit suits? What is the significance of it here? Why are rabbits supposed to be sexually attractive to men? How can this bedraggled costume appeal? Moira is smoking a cigarette. She takes a drag, passes it to the woman on her left, who's in red spangles with a long painted tail attached, and silver horns, a double outfit. Now she has her arms folded across her front, under her wired-up breasts. She stands on one foot, then the other. Her feet must hurt. Her spine sags slightly. She gazes without interest or speculation around the room. This must be familiar scenery. I will her to look at me, to see me, but her eyes slide over me, as if I'm just another palm tree, another chair. Surely she must turn. I'm willing so hard she must look at me before one of the men comes over to her, before she disappears. Already the other women with her, the blonde in the short pink bed jacket with the tatty fur trim, has been appropriated, has entered the glass elevator, has ascended out of sight. Moira swivels her head around again, checking perhaps for prospects. It must be hard to stand there unclaimed, as if she's at a high school dance, being looked over. This time, her eyes snag on me. She sees me. She knows enough not to react. We stare at one another, keeping our faces blank, apathetic. Then she makes a small motion of her head, a slight jerk to the right. She takes the cigarette back from the woman in red, holds it to her mouth, lets her hand rest in the air a moment, all 5 fingers outspread. Then she turns her back on me. Our old signal. I have 5 minutes to get to the woman's washroom, which must be somewhere to her right. I look around, no sign of it, nor can I risk getting up and walking anywhere without the commander. I don't know enough. I don't know the ropes. I might be challenged. A minute, 2. Moira begins to saunter off, not glancing around. She can only hope I've understood her and will follow. The commander comes back with 2 drinks. He smiles down at me, places the drinks on the long black coffee table in the front of the sofa, sits. Enjoying yourself, he says. He wants me to. This, after all, is a treat. I smile at him. Is there a washroom, I say? Of course, he says. He sips out his drink. He does not volunteer directions. I need to go to it. I am counting in my head now, seconds, not minutes. It's over there, he nods. What if someone stops me? Just show them your tag. It'll be all right. They'll know you're taken. I get up, wobble across the room. I lurch a little near the fountain, almost fall. It's the heels. Again, torture devices for women. Without the commander's arm to steady me, I'm off balance. Several of the men look at me, with surprise, I think, rather than lust. I feel like a fool. I hold my left arm conspicuously in front of me, bent at the elbow, with the tag turned outwards. Nobody says anything. I was going to say something, but I don't remember what it is. So I guess I won't say anything. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the little intro that I have for chapter 38. All right. So that is not actually an image of anything in this chapter, but it's trying to represent part of the chapter. In the book, Moira, here, let me go to the live scene. In the book, Moira is going to be talking about what happened after she left the the Red Center. And she's going to be talking about all the way up to the point that she was caught and what brought her there. And this is like a boat dock. I believe in the TV show, it is actually from when June finally escapes Gilead. So if you have never watched the shows, June does eventually escape after many, many attempts. And the time that she does escape, it's not even of her own will. It's somebody else rescuing her. So, but she's at a boat dock, and at the point that Moira is telling her story, right before she is caught at a boat dock. She is like on the precipice of escaping Gilead. She is right there at the border. All she has to do is get on this boat and get brought over the border by this boat, and they get caught before they ever get onto the boat. So that's kind of what that image is, to represent that point. And now let's go to the reading and read chapter 38. I found the entrance to the women's washroom. It still says lady in scrolly gold script. There's a corridor leading into the door, and a woman seated at a table beside it, supervising the entrances and exits. She's an older woman, wearing a purple caftan and gold eyeshadow, but I can tell she is, nevertheless, an aunt. The cattle prod's on the table, its thong around her wrist. No nonsense here. 15 minutes, she says to me. She gives me an oblong of purple cardboard from a stack of them on the table. It's like a fitting room in the department stores of the time before. To the women behind me, I hear her say, "You were just here." "I need to go again," the woman says. "Rest break once an hour," says the aunt. "You know the rules." The woman begins to protest in a whiny, desperate voice. I push open the door. I remember this. There's a rest area, gently lit in pinkish tones, with several easy chairs and a sofa, in lime green bamboo shoot print, with a wall clock above it in a gold filigree frame. Here they haven't removed the mirror. There's a long one opposite the sofa. You need to know here what you look like. Through an archway beyond, there's the row of toilet cubicles, also pink, and wash basins and more mirrors. Several women are sitting in the chairs and on the sofa, with their shoes off, smoking. They stare at me as I come in. There's perfume in the air and stale smoke and the scent of working flesh. "You knew?" one of them says. "Yes," I say, looking around for Moira, who is nowhere in sight. The women don't smile. They return to their smoking as if it's serious business. In the room beyond, a woman in a catsuit with a tail made of orange fake fur is redoing her makeup. This is like backstage, grease paint, smoke, the materials of illusion. I stand hesitant, not knowing what to do. I don't want to ask about Moira. I don't know whether it's safe. Then a toilet flushes and Moira comes out of a pink cubicle. She teeters towards me. I wait for a sign. "It's all right," she says to me and to the other women. "I know her." The others smile now, and Moira hugs me. My arms go around her. The wires propping up her breasts dig into my chest. We kiss each other on one cheek, and then the other. Then we stand back. "God awful," she says. She grins at me. "You look like the whore of Babylon." "Isn't that what I'm supposed to look like?" I say. "You look like something the cat dragged in." "Yes," she says, pulling up her front. "Not my style, and this thing is about to fall to shreds." I wish they'd dredged up someone who still knows how to bake them. Then I could get something halfway decent. You pick that out, I say? I wonder if maybe she's chosen it out of the others because it was less garish. At least it's only black and white. Hell no, she says. Government issue. I guess they thought it was me. I still can't believe it's her. I touch her arm again, and then I begin to cry. Don't do that, she says. Your eyes'll run. Anyway, there isn't time. Shove over. There isn't time. Shove over. This she says to the two women on the sofa. Her usual peremptory, rough-cut, slapdash manner. And as usual, she gets away with it. My break's up anyway, says one woman, who's wearing a baby blue laced-up Merry Widow and white stockings. She stands up, shakes my hand. Welcome, she says. The other woman obligingly moves over, and Moira and I sit down. The first thing we do is take off our shoes. What the hell are you doing here? Moira says then. Not that it isn't great to see you, but it's not so great for you. What'd you do wrong? Laugh at his dick? I look up at the ceiling. Is it bugged? I say. I wipe around my eyes gingerly with my fingertips. Black comes off. Probably, says Moira. You want a cig? I'd love one, I say. Here, she says to the woman next to her. Lend me one, will you? The woman hands over, ungrudging. Moira is still a skillful borrower. I smile at that. On the other hand, it might not be, says Moira. I can't imagine they'd care about anything we have to say. They've already heard most of it. And anyways, nobody gets out of here except in a black van. But you must know that if you're here. I pull her head over so I can whisper in her ear. I'm temporary, I tell her. It's just tonight. I'm not supposed to be here at all. He smuggled me in. Who? She whispers back. That shit with you? That shit you're with? I've had him. He's the pits. He's my commander, I say. She nods. Some of them do that. They get a kick out of it. It's like screwing on the altar or something. Your gang are supposed to be such chaste vestals. Your gang are supposed to be such chaste vestals. They like to see you all painted up. Just another crummy power trip. This interpretation hasn't occurred to me. I apply it to the commander, but it seems too simple for him, too crude. Surely his motivations are more delicate than that. But it may only be vanity that prompts me to think so. We don't have much time left, I say. Tell me everything. Moira shrugs. What's the point, she says. But she knows there is a point, so she does. This is what she says, whispers, more or less. I can't remember exactly because I had no way of writing it down. I filled it out for her as much as I can. We didn't have much time, so she just gave me the outlines. Also, she told me this in 2 sessions. We managed a second break together. I've tried to make it sound as much like her as I can. It's a way of keeping her alive. So in the show, they have a second break, but the second break is later on. She tries to find Moira in her sleeping quarters. In this, I think they're saying that they meet each other during 2 bathroom breaks. And in the book, it's this time and that's it. She doesn't see her again. In the show, she does eventually see her again. I left that old, at least I don't think she does. I might be wrong. It does say at the end of the chapter that she doesn't see her again. We'll see. We'll see. No, I think... anyway, yeah, we'll see. It's just... I don't know. I don't know. Okay, I left that old hag, Aunt Elizabeth, tied up like a Christmas turkey behind the furnace. I wanted to kill her. I really felt like it. But now I'm just as glad I didn't, or things would be a lot worse for me. I couldn't believe how easy it was to get out of the center. In that brown outfit, I just walked right through. I kept on going as if I knew where I was heading, till I was out of sight. I didn't have any great plan. It wasn't an organized thing, like they thought, though. Like they thought. Though when they were trying to get it out of me, I made up a lot of stuff. You do that. When they use the electrodes and the other things on you, you don't care what you say. I kept my shoulders back and chin up and marched along, trying to think of what to do next. When they busted the press, they'd picked up a lot of the women I knew, and I thought they'd most likely have the rest by now. I was sure they had a list. We were dumb to think we could keep it going the way we did, even underground, even when we'd moved everything out of the office and into people's cellars and back rooms. So I knew better than to try any of those houses. I had some sort of an idea of where I was in relation to the city, though I was walking along a street I couldn't remember having seen before. But I figured out from the sun where north was. Girl Scouts was some use after all. I thought I might as well head that way, see if I could find the yard or the square or anything around it. Then I would know for sure where I was. Also, I thought it would look better for me to be going in towards the center of things rather than away. It would look more plausible. They'd set up more checkpoints while we were in the Red Center. They were all over the place. The first one scared the shit out of me. I came onto it suddenly, around the corner. I knew it wouldn't look right if I turned around in full view and went back, so I bluffed it through, same as I had at the gate, putting on that frown and keeping myself stiff and pursing my lips and looking right through them as if they were festering sores. You know, the way the aunts look when they say the word man. It worked like a charm, and it did at the other checkpoints too. But the insides of my head were going around like crazy. I only had so much time before they found the old bat and sent out the alarm. Soon enough, they'd be looking for me, one fake aunt on foot. I tried to think of someone. I ran over the people I knew. At last, I tried to remember what I could about our mailing list. We destroyed it, of course, early on. Or we didn't destroy it, we divided it up amongst us, and each one of us memorized a section. Then we destroyed it. We were still using the mails then, but we didn't put our logos on the envelopes anymore. It was getting far too risky. So I tried to recall my section of the list. I won't tell you the name I chose because I don't want them to get in trouble, if they haven't already. It could be I've spilled all this stuff. It's hard to remember what you say when they're doing it. You'll say anything. I chose them because they were a married couple, and those were safer than anyone single, and especially anyone gay. Also, I remember the designation beside their name, Q, it said, which meant Quaker. We had the religious denominations marked, where there were any, for marches. That way, you could tell who might turn out for what. It was no good calling the C's to do abortion stuff, for instance. Not that we'd done much of that lately. I remember their address, too. We'd grilled each other on those addresses. It was important to remember them exactly, zip code and all. By this time, I'd hit Mass Avenue, and I knew where I was, and I knew where they were too. Now I was worrying about something else. When these people saw an ant coming up the walk, wouldn't they just lock the door and pretend not to be home? But I had to try it anyway. It was my only chance. I figured they weren't likely to shoot me. It was about 5 o'clock by this time. I was tired of walking, especially that ant's way like a goddamn soldier, poker up the ass. And I hadn't had anything since breakfast. I hadn't had anything to eat since breakfast. What I didn't know, of course, was that in those early days, the aunts and even the center were hardly common knowledge. It was all secret at first, behind barbed wire. There might have been objections to what they were doing even then. So although people had seen the odd aunt around, they weren't really aware of what they were for. They must have thought they were some kind of army nurse. Already they'd stopped asking questions unless they had to. So this thing with the ants, if if Testaments, so now I remember the name, Testaments, if Testaments does it any justice, they will actually talk about this at some point. I really hope they do, because in the book they address these beginning stages where they're trying to figure out what to do with these women and how they want to proceed with the arrangement of Gilead and all of that. And from what I remember, it was either Aunt Lydia or one of the people in her group that actually came up with the idea for the ants. So when they say that they weren't really well known at that point, they're right. Like these women, like they hadn't even come up with ants yet. This was something that they came up with after they were captured. But in the book, they talk about how they were captured, what these people did to capture them, and all kinds of other stuff, how the whole idea of the ants came along, and why these ants actually have more privileges than most of the other women. And this idea that they're trying to protect these girls in some way. Like you can see with Aunt Lydia, she does a lot of really horrible, awful shit. But in the back of her mind, she thinks she's really protecting these women. And so you can kind of see it in those passages in the book Testaments. And I really hope that they present that stuff in the show at some point. I don't care if it's like 3 seasons down the road. I just hope that they do present it. Even if it's just as a flashback, I hope they present it and I hope they do it justice. Like I said last time, there's several things that I really hope they do something, and I hope they do it justice to actually present those things. I hope they don't just leave it out, and this is definitely one of them. All right, let's see. Hold on, I'm not sure. Okay, yeah, I think I did that paragraph. Okay, so these people let me in right away. It was the woman who came to the door. I told her I was doing a questionnaire. I did that so she wouldn't look surprised in case anyone was watching. But as soon as I was inside the door, I took off the headgear and told them who I was. They could have phoned the police or whatever. I know I was taking a chance, but like I say, there wasn't any choice. Anyway, they didn't. They gave me some clothes, a dress of hers, and burned the aunt's outfit and the pass in their furnace. They knew that had to be done right away. They didn't like having me here. That much was clear. It made them very nervous. They had 2 little kids, both under 7. I could see their point. And so that passage, if you've watched the show, you know there's like a lot from that passage that's like kind of pulled out of that passage and used in various escapes that June tries. And we see that in June's attempted escapes on the TV series. So, and they said they're going to do the same thing with the Testaments. They're going to pull little bits and pieces from it to try to expand the story out. Make it more dramatic, make it more TV friendly, that kind of thing. And to expand the story. So I'm hoping that Testaments is more than one season. I'm hoping they have at least a handful of seasons. I don't know. It depends on how well it does. I know there are some people that are Handmaid's Tale fans that have no intention on watching Testaments because it doesn't have June in it. But I also know some people that are kind of on the fence and haven't decided. I really hope they do. It is definitely a different story. It is not about the handmaids. This is about these young girls that are growing up in this regime. And they are mostly the girls that are in privileged families of the commanders. And so they are being forced into marriage for the most part. There's a couple of them that don't end up being married off, but that is because Aunt Lydia saves them from being married off, basically. And not like right off the bat. It's not like somebody can just go to her and say, oh, I can't deal with this. And she just decides to protect them. No, it's like things get really, really bad. They don't know what to do or who to turn to. And then eventually Aunt Lydia finds out. And eventually it works up to a position to where she tries to find something else for them and protects them so that they don't get married off. But anyway, maybe I'm telling too many spoilers, but I'm just excited. I'm excited. Okay. So I tried to recall. Wait a minute. No, I already read that part. I went to the can. What a relief that was. Bathtub full of plastic fish and so on. Then I sat upstairs in the kids' room and played with them and their plastic blocks while their parents stayed downstairs and decided what to do about me. I didn't feel scared by then. In fact, I felt quite good. Fatalistic, you could say. Then the woman made me a sandwich and a cup of coffee, and the man said he'd take me to another house. They hadn't risked phoning. The other house was Quaker too, and they were pay dirt. I don't know what that means, because they were a station on the underground female road. I don't know what pay dirt means. After the first couple left, they said they'd try to get me out of the country. I won't tell you how, because some of the stations may still be operating. Each one of them was in contact with only one other, always the next one along. There were advantages to that. It was better if you were caught. But disadvantages too, because if one station got busted, the entire chain backed up until they could make contact with one of their couriers, who could set up an alternate route. They were better organized than you'd think, though. They'd infiltrated a couple of useful places. One of them was the post office. They had a driver there with one of those handy little trucks. I made it over the bridge and into the city proper in a mail sack. I can tell you that now because they got him soon after that. He ended up on the wall. You hear about these things. You hear a lot in here. You'd be surprised. The commanders tell us themselves. I guess they figure, why not? There's no way we can pass it on to... There's no one we can pass it on to except each other. And that doesn't count. I'm making this sound easy, but it wasn't. I nearly shat bricks the whole time. One of the hardest things was knowing that these other people were risking their lives for you when they didn't have to. But they said they were doing it for religious reasons and I shouldn't take it personally. That helped some. They had silent prayers every evening. I found that hard to get used to at first because it reminded me so much of that shit at the center. It made me feel sick to my stomach, to tell you the truth. I had to make an effort, tell myself that this was a whole other thing. I hated it at first, but I figured it was what kept them going. They knew, more or less, what would happen to them if they got caught. Not in detail, but they knew. By that time, they'd started putting some of it on the TV, the trials and so forth. It was before the sectarian roundups began in earnest. As long as you said you were some sort of a Christian and you were married, for the first time, that is, they were still leaving you pretty much alone. They were concentrating first on the others. They got them more or less under control before they started in on everybody else. I was underground. It must have been 8 or 9 months. I was taken from one safe house to another. There were more of those then. They weren't all Quakers. Some of them weren't even religious. They were just people who didn't like the way things were going. So when you hear about people doing protests and stuff like that, and sometimes it seems like there's not that many protesters, or there's some awful thing going on and you don't see a lot of protesters, sometimes the protests get minimized. Sometimes they don't get covered. Sometimes they don't happen because the protesters are actually scared. That does happen. We do get freaking scared sometimes, and avoid some of that. But there's also other stuff going on behind the scenes that you might not know about. These underground things, people trying to change legislation, people trying to get the listening ear of the leaders in charge, stuff like that. It's not always the right there in your face stuff. It is not always the stuff that gets blasted on the news or on social media. So just keep that in mind, even when it seems like nobody's doing anything about this or saying anything about this. A lot of times there are people trying to do something about it. Anyway, where was I? Okay, we're almost to that part with the boat dock that I put the image of. I almost made it out. They got me up as far as Salem, then in a truck full of chickens into Maine. I almost puked from the smell. You ever thought what it would be like to be shat on by a truckload of chickens? All of them car sick? They were planning to get me across the border there. Not by car or truck. That was already too difficult. But by boat, up the coast. I didn't know that until the actual night. They never told you the next step until right before it was happening. They were very careful that way. So I don't know what happened. Maybe somebody got cold feet about it, or somebody outside got suspicious, or maybe it was the boat. Maybe they thought the guy was out in his boat at night too much. By that time it must have been crawling with eyes up there. And everywhere else close to the border. Whatever it was, they picked us up just as we were coming out the back door to go down to the dock. Me and the guy and his wife too. They were an old couple in their 50s. He'd been in the lobster business back before all that happened to the shore fishing there. I didn't know what became of them after that, because they took me in a separate van. I thought it might be the end for me. or back to the center. And the attentions of Aunt Lydia and her steel cable. She enjoyed that, you know. She pretended to do all the love the sinner and hate the sin stuff, but she enjoyed it. I did consider offing myself, and maybe I would have if there had been a way. But they had two of the men in the back of the van with me, watching me like a hawk. Didn't say a hell of a lot, just sat and watched me in that wall-eyed way they have. So it was no go. We didn't end up at the center, though. We went somewhere else. I won't go into it. What happened after that, I'd rather not talk about it. All I can say is they didn't leave any marks. When that was over, they showed me a movie. You know what it was about? It was about life in the colonies. In the colonies, they spend their time cleaning up. They're very clean-minded these days. Sometimes it's just bodies after a battle. The ones in city ghettos are the worst. They're left around longer. They get rottener. This bunch doesn't like dead bodies lying around. And they shouldn't, because they're freaking germy. They spread all kinds of shit, pestilence, and yeah, you don't want to leave dead bodies laying around. Stink and not good. Around, they're afraid of a plague or something. So the women in the colonies there do the burning. The other colonies are worse, though. The toxic dumps and the radiation spills. They figure you've got 3 years maximum at those before your nose falls off and your skin pulls away like rubber gloves. They don't bother to feed you much or give you protective clothing or anything. It's cheaper not to. Anyway, they're mostly people they want to get rid of. They say there's other colonies, not so bad, where they do agriculture, cotton, tomatoes, and all that. But those weren't the ones that they showed me the movie about. It's old women. I bet you've been wondering why you haven't seen too many of those around anymore. And handmaids who've screwed up their 3 chances, and incorrigibles like me. Discards, all of us. They're sterile, of course. If they aren't that way to begin with, they are after they've been there for a while. When they're unsure, they do a little operation on you, so there won't be any mistakes. I'd say it's about 1/4 men in the colonies, too. Not all those gender traitors end up on the wall. All of them wear long dresses like the ones at the center, only gray. Women and the men, too. Judging from the group shots, I guess it's supposed to demoralize the men having to wear a dress. Shit, it would demoralize me enough. How do you stand it, everything considered? I like this outfit better. So, after that, they said I was too dangerous to be allowed the privilege of returning to the Red Center. They said I would be a corrupting influence. I had my choice, they said. This or the colonies. Well, shit. Nobody but a nun would pick the colonies. I mean, I'm not a martyr. I'd already had my tubes tied years ago, so I didn't even need the operation. Nobody in here with viable ovaries either. So you can see what kind of problems it would cause. So I have a question about this. If she already had her tubes tied, and nobody had undone that operation, why the fuck did they put her in the Red Center in the first place? They weren't putting her in there as an aunt. They were putting her in there as another one of the handmaids. Why the fuck would you be in a position of trying to give birth in a realm where birth does not come easy? She's already had her tubes tied, and you've done nothing to reverse the process. That doesn't make fucking sense. But anyway, little glitch in the storytelling, maybe? Maybe somebody didn't know that her tubes were tied? I don't know. Anyway. So here I am. They even give you face cream. You should figure out some way of getting in here. You'd have 3 or 4 good years before your snatch wears out, and then they send you to the boneyard. The food's not bad, and there's drinks and drugs, if you want it, and we only work nights. Moira, I say, you don't mean that. She's frightening me now, because what I hear in her voice is indifference, a lack of volition. Have they really done it to her then? Taken away something? What? That used to be so central to her? But how can I expect her to go on with my idea of her courage, live it through, act it out, when I myself do not? I don't want her to be like me, give in, go along, save her skin. That's what it comes down to. I want gallantry from her, swashbuckling, heroism, single-handed combat, something I lack. Don't worry about me, she says. She must know some of what I'm thinking. I'm still here. You can see it's me. Anyway, look at it this way. It's not so bad. There's lots of women around. Butch paradise, you might call it. Now she's teasing, showing some energy, and I feel better. Do they let you, I say? Let? Hell, they encourage it. Know what they call this place among themselves? Jezebels. The aunts figure we're all damned anyway. They've given up on us. So it doesn't matter that what sort of vice we get up to, and the commanders don't give a piss what we do in our off time. Anyway, women on women sort of turns them on. What about the others, I say? Put it this way, she says. They're not too fond of men. She shrugs again. It might be resignation. Here's what I'd like to tell. I'd like to tell a story about how Moira escaped. For good this time. Or if I couldn't tell that, I'd like to say she blew up Jezebels with 50 commanders inside it. I'd like her to end with something daring and spectacular, some outrage, something that would befit her. But as far as I know, that didn't happen. I don't know how she ended, or even if she did, because I never saw her again. Okay, so, and as you can see throughout this chapter, there's like all kind, if you have watched the TV series, there's all kinds of little one-liners and stuff in this chapter that are pulled from the book and utilized in various places in the TV series. So, and I am glad they did that. I think it was a very good way of expanding the story when they didn't have more story from Margaret Atwood, and making it believable as storylines to go with this person's story, with the Handmaid's story. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the next chapter. Chapter 39. Wait a minute. I'm going to start on there. Okay, so this one, chapter 39, it's not all about her mom. The conversation eventually is brought up. She remembers that this is something that Moira brought up in her discussion with her before she left the Jezebels. That Moira had seen her mother on one of these films. So in the TV show, they both see it in the Red Center when Aunt Lydia is presenting these films about the colonies. But in this situation, in the book, this image is presented as Moira saw it when she was being basic when they were trying to decide what they were going to do with her, send her to the colonies or send her to Jezebels. And it was part of their attempt at trying to convince them that the colonies are really, really bad place that you don't ever want to be. You're going to just fucking die there slowly. And that was one of the images they showed. So anyway, other stuff goes on in this chapter too. So let's go ahead and get it started. Chapter 39. The commander has a room key. He got it from the front desk while I waited on the flower sofa. He shows it to me, slyly. I am to understand. We ascend in the glass half-egg of the elevator, past the vine-draped balconies. I am to understand also that I am on display. He unlocks the door of the room. Everything is the same, the very same as it was once upon a time. The drapes are the same, the heavy flowered ones, that match the bedspread, orange poppies on royal blue, and thin white ones to draw against the sun. Bureau and bedside tables, square-cornered, impersonal. The lamps, the pictures on the walls, the fruit in a bowl, stylized apples, flowers in a vase, buttercups, and devil's paint brushes, keyed to the drapes. All is the same. I tell the commander, just a minute, and go into the bathroom. My ears are ringing from the smoke. The gin has filled me with lassitude. I wet a washcloth and press it onto my forehead. After a while, I look to see if there are any little bars of soap in individual wrappers. There are. The kind with the gypsy on them, from Spain. I breathe in the soap smell, the disinfectant smell, and stand in the white bathroom, listening to the distant sounds of water running, toilets being flushed. In a strange way, I feel comforted, at home. There is something reassuring about the toilets. Bodily functions at least remain democratic. Everybody shits, as Moira would say. I sit on the edge of the bathtub, gazing at the blank towels. Once they would have excited me. They would have meant the aftermath of love. I saw your mother, Moira said. Where? I said. I felt jolted, thrown off. I realized I'd been thinking of her as dead. Not in person. It was in that film they showed us, about the colonies. There was a close-up. It was her, all right. She was wrapped up in one of those gray things, but I know it was her. Thank God, I said. Why thank God, said Moira. I thought she was dead. She might as well be, said Moira. You should wish it for her. I can't remember the last time I saw her. It blends in with all the others. It was some trivial occasion. She must have dropped by. She did that. She breezed in and out of my house as if I were the mother and she were the child. She still had that jauntiness sometimes when she was between apartments, just moving into one or just moving out. She'd used my washer and dryer for her laundry. Maybe she'd come over to borrow something from me. A pot, a hair dryer, that too was a habit of hers. I didn't know it would be the last time, or else I would have remembered it better. I can't even remember what we said. A week later, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. When things had become suddenly so much worse, I tried to call her, but there was no answer, and no answer when I tried again. She hadn't told me she was going anywhere, but then maybe she wouldn't have. She didn't always. She had her own car, and she wasn't too old to drive. Finally, I got the apartment superintendent on the phone. He said he hadn't seen her lately. I was worried. I thought maybe she'd had a heart attack or a stroke. It wasn't out of the question, though she hadn't been sick that I knew of. She was always so healthy. She still worked out at Nautilus and went swimming every 2 weeks. I used to tell my friends she was healthier than I was, and maybe it was true. Luke and I drove across into the city, and Luke bullied the superintendent into opening up the apartment. She could be dead on the floor, Luke said. The longer you leave it, the worse it'll be. You thought of the smell? The superintendent said something about needing a permit, but Luke could be persuasive. Excuse me. But Luke could be persuasive. He made it clear we weren't going to wait or go away. I started to cry. Maybe that was what finally did it. When the man got the door open, what we found was chaos. There was furniture overturned. The mattress was ripped open. Bureau drawers upside down on the floor, their contents strewn and mounded. But my mother wasn't there. I'm going to call the police, I said. I'd stopped crying. I felt cold from head to foot. My teeth were chattering. Don't, said Luke. Why not, I said. I was glaring at him. I was angry now. He stood there in the wreck of the living room, just looking at me. He put his hands into his pockets, one of those aimless gestures people make when they don't know what else to do. Just don't, is what he said. Your mother's neat, Moira would say when we were at college. Later, she's got pizzazz. Later still, she's cute. She's not cute, I would say. She's my mother. Geez, said Moira. You ought to see mine. I think of my mother sweeping up deadly toxins, the way they used to use up old women in Russia, sweeping dirt. Only this dirt will kill her. I can't quite believe it. Surely, her cockiness, her optimism and energy, her pizzazz will get her out of this. She will think of something. But I know this isn't true. It's just passing the buck, as children do to mothers. I've mourned for her already, but I will do it again and again. I bring myself back to the hotel. This is where I need to be, now, in this ample mirror, under the white light. I take a look at myself. It's a good look, slow and level. I'm a wreck. The mascara has smudged again, despite Moira's repairs. The purplish lipstick has bled. Hair trails aimlessly. The molting pink feathers are tawdry as carnival dolls, and some of the starry sequins have come off. Probably they were off to begin with, and I just didn't notice. I am a travesty in bad makeup and someone else's clothes used glitz. I wish I had a toothbrush. I could stand here and think about it, but time is passing. I must be back at the house before midnight. Otherwise, I'll turn into a pumpkin. Or was that the coach? Tomorrow's the ceremony, according to the calendar, So tonight, Serena wants me serviced. And if I'm not there, she'll find out why. And then what? And the commander, for a change, is waiting. I can hear him pacing in the main room. Now he pauses outside the bathroom door, clears his throat, a stagey I turn on the hot water tap to signify readiness of something approaching it. I should get this over with. I wash my hands. I must beware of inertia. When I come out, he's lying down on the king-sized bed with, I note, his shoes off. I lie down beside him. I don't have to be told. I would rather not, but it's good to lie down. I am so tired. Alone at last, I think. The fact is that I don't want to be alone with him, not on a bed. I'd rather have Serena there too. I'd rather play Scrabble. But my silence does not deter him. Tomorrow, isn't it? He says softly. I thought we could jump the gun. He turns towards me. Why did you bring me here? I say coldly. He's stroking my body now, from stem, as they say, to stern. Cat stroke, along the left flank, down the left leg. He stops at the foot, his fingers encircling the ankle, briefly, like a bracelet where the tattoo is. A braille he can read, a cattle brand. It means ownership. I remind myself that he is not an unkind man, that under other circumstances, I even like him. His hand pauses. I thought you might enjoy it for a change. He knows that isn't enough. I guess it was a sort of experiment. That isn't enough either. You said you wanted to know. He sits up, begins to unbutton. Will this be worse, to have him denuded of all his cloth power? He's down to the shirt, then. Under it, sadly, a little belly, wisps of hair. He pulls down one of my straps, slides his other hand in among the feathers. But it's no good. I lie there like a dead bird. He's not a monster, I think. I can't afford pride or aversion. There are all kinds of things that have to be discarded under the circumstances. Maybe I should turn the lights out, says the commander, dismayed and no doubt disappointed. I see him for a moment before he does this. Without his uniform, he looks smaller, older, like something being dried. The trouble is that I can't be, with him, any different from the way I usually am with him. Usually I'm inert. Surely there must be something here for us other than this futility and bathos. Fake it, I scream at myself inside my head. You must remember how. Let's get this over with, or you'll be here all night. Bestir yourself. Move your flesh around. Breathe audibly. It's the least you can do. So, like these freaking whatever the fuck they are, monthly rape sessions, she always steals herself. She always tries to disconnect herself from what is happening. That is how she gets through it. That is how she has attempted to cope with the fucking horrible situation she's in. And this is a different situation. And she's like, I do this every time to disconnect myself and to keep myself from the reality of it. And I can't do anything else. I can't bring myself to do anything else. So now she's like trying to think in her head, that she's got to fucking fake it to make it. Like many women so often do when they can't quite get there. Like we do all these things to try to pretend like we're getting somewhere, to get it over with, or to make the guy that we're with think that things are going right, or the girl if that's who you're with, whatever. But in this situation, she's like, no, I'm just laying there like a dead bird because this is how I am. I always freaking steel myself. And this whole situation, in my opinion, is exactly what Fred has been after from the beginning with those freaking Scrabble meetings. That it seems so innocent on the surface. It seems so minor. It seems like such a minor breach of etiquette, at least in our own minds because of our own situation. But really, he's freaking grooming her to get her ready for this. And this isn't just entertainment. This is him trying to treat her as though she is his prostitute. All of this, and saying that Jezebels is like some new thing, like this isn't new. This is old as dirt. Some of it may not be exactly the same, but this is old. The so-called oldest job in the world, prostitution. They forced these girls into prostitution and forced them to work out of this hotel, pleasing the higher-up men of the regime, while they also have no such outlet for the younger men. And I don't remember if we see any of that in the book. I think we do a little bit, but in the show we definitely see some of the results of these younger men having no outlet later on. Like all these things that they say they're doing in Gilead to make this better world that works better, that everybody's doing things according to nature, that they're going back to their original natural positions. It all still fucking utilizes all the awful shit they claimed they were getting rid of. It all still contains all that fucking horrible shit. The murders, the rapes, the harassment, the assault, the fucking racism, like all of it is still there. It's just being hidden and organized and covered up. But it's still there. And eventually, we got to get Aunt Lydia to see that shit so that she can start to transition in a way that actually gets her into the position that she's going to eventually need to be in for what's coming up. Anyway, that is all I've got for you this week. I'll go ahead and go to the... is it the ending stream? Yeah, okay, so I'm still doing the Tuesdays and Sundays for Handmaid's Tale readings. Deadlock is gonna be starting. I will be doing a Saturday live stream introducing a teaser trailer or something like that, and talking a little bit about the previous season and what little I know of the coming up season. And then after that, I'm going to try to do live stream after watches every Saturday for Deadlock. And I'm not sure exactly how many episodes it is. I know I've looked it up, but I don't remember what the number was. So it's probably around the same amount as it was the first season. So if you watch that, and if you don't watch it, Deadlock is, it's an interesting show. It's kind of a comedy version of a detective type movie. These are police officers and detectives. They're trying to figure out what's going on, and at least the first season, it's like a middle of nowhere town in Australia that is very, very small, and stuff like this never happens. And one day some guy shows up dead naked on the beach, and they proceed after that to try to figure out what's going on. And there's a lot more murders after that, but like I said, it's also presented in a comical way, and it's all in Australia, so there's lots of Australian actors. So it might be worth looking into if you are into that kind of thing. And I believe it's on Prime, on Amazon Prime. So just a thought. Bridgerton season 4, I am still doing reactions on Wednesdays. I'm still doing reactions. I'm doing them on Wednesdays now because it took me until Wednesday to get the first episode edited. So I try to do one episode a week. So I hopefully will have it completely edited by Wednesday night. I am working on it right now. I've got it a lot of the way done, but I still have some things that I have to have finished on it. So I think it's episode 6 that I will be airing this Wednesday. And Solo Leveling, I should be starting next week, I think, on Friday. I still have one more episode of Tokyo Ghoul, just so you know. But the animes I'll just keep doing on Fridays. They're shorter, so they're easier to edit. I also find the animes easier in general to edit for some reason. Like, just the way that they have the animation done, it seems to work better for editing in less complex ways. Anyway, that's my schedule. So if you want to look at any of that stuff, it's there. At the end of this, not right now, but after this gets done processing, I will put the ending screen. I will put up a block with a link to other book readings. So it will give you a link to the other Handmaid's Tale book readings. Sometimes I'll put the book readings link. Sometimes I will put Handmaid's Tale links. I think mostly I've been putting the books links. And the only reading I have done is Handmaid's Tale, because that's where I started doing the readings. So if you want to see more of the Handmaid's Tale live stream readings, you can go to that playlist. If you want to see Handmaid's Tale reactions, you can go to that playlist, but you might actually have to look for it, because usually I've been putting the link for the Handmaid's Tale readings instead, the books. All right. That is all I've got for you though right now. And remember I forgot the name of it again. Why am I having such a hard time with this? When the sequel to Handmaid's Tale starts, I will be doing reactions to it. And I'm sorry I can't remember the name of it right now. I keep drawing a blank. I have a frontal head injury, and sometimes this happens. Sometimes I just draw a blank, even about things that I usually know very well what they are. So that's happening right now. I am just not able to remember what the name of that show is going to be, what the name of that book was. I just remember it starts with a T. Anyway, that's all I got for you. I will see you when I see you.